Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday morning Bible study for this day, December the 7th, the 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. I was just thinking about that earlier today, and actually on the Today Show, they were interviewing a man who's, in the ballpark of, 99, 100 years old, right in there, who was actually at Pearl Harbor and was at the radar, working the radar and everything, and was actually getting readings that he didn't quite understand, and was trying to communicate with other people. Hey, wait a minute, what's this going on? What's this I'm picking up? And turn out to be a fateful decision, or a fateful discovery. But anyway. All right. Okay.
What's the rap for that? He actually called a lieutenant and told him. The lieutenant said, "It's that flight of B-25s or B-17s coming in from the States."
Yeah.
So,
yeah. They were actually, I didn't know that. They were actually expecting a group of American bombers to come in.
But just as a point of interest, Tom, I have on my wall a photograph of a fellow and me that I had several years ago. This guy was on the first B-17 combat flight of World War II because he was at Pearl Harbor. He was a radio operator. His name was Harold Kay. It's very interesting to talk to him, but they actually got his B-17 off the ground. And that was the first combat flight of World War II of the Pacific Theater.
Sometime my mom or I will have to tell you about my Uncle Bubba, who flew B-17s.
I'd love to hear it. I am into that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started. We're in chapter 42. Chapter 42 today. We left off last week at the end of chapter 41. We left off with the famine having begun in Egypt, and but fortunately for Egypt, Joseph was in charge, and he had been preparing during the years of plenty, been storing up grain. And so with the final verse of chapter 41, verse 57 says, "Moreover, all the world came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain, because the famine became severe throughout the world." And that's the little suggestion that if this were a TV show and it were being narrated that way, that would be your hint that the next episode is going to somehow reach or is somehow going to involve Joseph's family back in the land of Canaan. And indeed it does. So chapter 42, let's get started. Verse 1. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you keep looking at one another? I have heard," he said, "that there is grain in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt, but Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he feared that harm might come to him. Thus the sons of Israel were among the other people who came to buy grain, for the famine had reached the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was governor over the land. It was he who sold to all the people of the land, and Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke harshly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." Although Joseph had recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Joseph also remembered the dreams that he had dreamed about them. And he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." They said to him, "No, my lord, your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies. But he said to them, no, you have come to see the nakedness of the land. They said, we, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of a certain man in the land of Canaan. The youngest, however, is now with our father, and one is no more. Joseph said to them, it is just as I have said to you, you are spies. Here is how you shall be tested. As Pharaoh lives, you shall not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Let one of you go and bring your brother, while the rest of you remain in prison, in order that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you, or else, as Pharaoh lives, surely you are spies. And he put them all together in prison for 3 days. All right, let's pause. Let's pause there. Okay. What are some thoughts? What are some thoughts you have on this? This is good.
What goes around comes around.
Yep. Indeed. Indeed.
A minor thought that has nothing profound about it, but I was reading ahead a little bit before you started, and Joseph says, why do you stand staring at each other? And I thought, now that is a really weird thing to put in the Bible. So I was waiting to see what you were going to say, Tom. And you have the same thing. It's just a little bit different words. Why are you looking at each other, or something like that? Was this really important to this story? I mean, it's just,
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
it sounds so modern, you know. Why are you just standing around looking at each other? Get out there and do something.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it's supposed to be. What it's supposed to be getting at. Yeah, absolutely. Just getting at this idea that you're standing around, you're not doing anything. You need to take, you need to respond to the situation as it presents itself and do something about it.
Do something.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, I think I would say that Joseph, not, I meant Jacob before, that Joseph kind of disappoints me, and yet he's being very, very human. You see, I would like him to say, my brothers, I am so glad to see you. Come, and I, blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't. He's very human, and he's being mean to them. He's putting them through trauma. I mean, I know it all works out in the end, but it's I guess just interesting to see that he's just a very human being. And
he is a human being. He is a human being. There is one person other than his father Jacob. There is one person that Joseph truly cares about, and that's Benjamin, who's not there. And now in a moment we're actually we've already seen him sort of set it up, but we're going to see it develop further, that he's going to devise a test, and the test involves bringing Benjamin back, bringing him back to Egypt. And as we'll see in a moment, we'll talk about some other things first, but as we'll see in a moment, the test is not quite what the brothers think it is. The brothers will think that the test is about whether they're telling the truth about having a brother or not. And the test is not actually that. And the reason it's not that is because Joseph knows full well they have a brother. They don't know that he knows that. But he knows full well they have a younger brother. He knows they're telling the truth about that. What he doesn't know is how they treat that brother. They don't know how they treat Benjamin. And in this way, Joseph identifies with Benjamin for reasons that you already know about, because they're full brothers. They're both sons of Rachel. They're full brothers. They're the closest in age with each other. And he feels that special bond, but he doesn't know how the other brothers treat Benjamin, what lengths they will go to protect Benjamin, to look out for him,
It's true.
because
They could have left him behind for many reasons.
well, that's right. That's right.
Some
That's
of them
right.
might not have been good reasons. Yeah.
Exactly. Some of them, and as far as Joseph now, and this is where Joseph's calculation goes in. While Joseph knows they have a brother Benjamin, he doesn't know how they treat Benjamin. He doesn't know that, and he doesn't know that they're honest men. I mean, they keep insisting, well, we're honest men. He doesn't know that they're honest men. In fact, he knows that they've been dishonest men in terms of lying to their father, about Joseph. So
Do they think,
his
do
reasons
they
not to
think
trust them.
Joseph is dead?
What's
Because
that?
they say do they think Joseph is dead?
The brothers
because
do, yeah.
Because they say he is no more.
Or he's, yeah. They assume he's either dead or lost,
Yeah. Mine says disappeared.
just
Yeah.
disappeared. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it would never have occurred to them in a million years that he could be the governor of Egypt. I mean, it never occurred to them in a million years that
Right.
that would be
right.
the case. They would figure that he is either dead or he is some obscure slave in some part of Egypt that
Mhm.
they would never find.
How long was there between communication?
It's been at least a few years at this point.
Must be many years not to recognize him.
Yeah. I was going to say there's the 2 years. There's the 2 years between Joseph being put in prison in the first time with the whole Potiphar's wife business, to him being released from prison. But then we hear about him being 30 years old when he enters the service of Pharaoh. We know that 7 years have passed, the years of plenty. So we know 7 years have passed. We figure we're probably at least a year into the famine part. So you figure 7 plus 1 plus 2, it's been at least 10 years. At least 10, if not more.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a while, and certainly as far as they're concerned, Joseph is either dead or he's languishing.
Nobody.
He's a nobody. Yeah, he's languishing just in some obscure part of Egypt in total obscurity. Yeah. So he's lost. He's lost as far as the family is concerned. But the thing that, as we'll see, and we'll develop this further, but the thing that Joseph is actually concerned about, and he has some reason to be concerned about, is that he's concerned that because we know, and we'll see this more in a few, towards the end of this chapter into the next chapter, we know that Jacob, with Joseph gone, Jacob now favors Benjamin over all the other brothers. And are those older brothers going to be jealous of Benjamin the way they were jealous of Joseph? And Joseph doesn't know the answer to that question. And so that's informing this encounter. That's kind of the backstory to this encounter with the brothers. He doesn't know that they're honest men. He knows they're telling the truth about having a father and having a younger brother back in Canaan. He knows that part, but he doesn't know the rest. All right, let's see, what else? Don't you love verse 9? Joseph also remembered the dreams that he had dreamed about them. You talk about the humanity of Joseph, Lois, that this is like payback.
Oh, yeah, all all the sheaves bowing down to him and all.
Yeah, yeah, it's like payback. Oh,
Why they didn't like him in the first place.
those jerks finally are getting a taste of it. Yeah. And I mean, it's like the only thing, the one thing that would be, if you were truly motivated by just pure vindictiveness, the one thing that would make it even better would be Joseph revealing himself and saying, ha ha, see, I'm now going to throw you into prison. And the brothers know exactly who's doing it. You know, that would be exquisite, cold revenge, you know, but he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that yet. So, all right, what else? What else? Okay. Well, anyway, he lets them cool their heels in prison for 3 days. And so then we pick up on the third day. Joseph goes, gets them out of prison, and we proceed with verse 18. So let's read on from there. Verse 18. On the third day, Joseph said to them, do this and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here where you are imprisoned, and the rest of you shall go and carry grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me. Thus your words will be verified, and you shall not die. And they agreed to do so. They said to one another, alas, we are paying the penalty for what we did to our brother. We saw his anguish when he pleaded with us, but we would not listen. That is why this anguish has come upon us. Then Reuben answered them, did I not tell you not to wrong the boy? But you would not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood. They did not know that Joseph understood them, since he spoke with them through an interpreter. He turned away from them and wept. Then he returned and spoke to them. And he picked out Simeon and had him bound before their eyes. Joseph then gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to return every man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for their journey. This was done for them. I mean, I'm going to keep reading just a few more verses. They loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed. When one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his money at the top of the sack. He said to his brothers, my money has been put back. Here it is in my sack. At this, they lost heart and turned trembling to one another, saying, what is this that God has done to us? All right, let's pause there. Now, hey,
Did Joseph say, I fear God? I mean, I fear God. Would they have not thought something about that? Because, would they think he was talking about an Egyptian God or the God?
Yeah. I don't know. It's not, they probably would have assumed it. Yeah, they probably would have assumed that it was an Egyptian god.
Okay.
I mean, the Egyptian gods, as they presented themselves were not, or as they were presented, let me put it that way, we're not, for the most part, we're not evil. They were gods of truth and justice and order and things like that, so, to say that, I fear God, I fear a God who stands for truth and whatnot, in justice, I'm not going to treat you unjustly. Actually, what you have to fear, what you guys have to fear is justice. Is if justice is done, you have something to be afraid of. But he's not saying that yet. You know, he's not saying that because they don't know who he is. In fact, they not only don't know who he is, but this is a detail that we didn't know before. It's told to us here, and this actually adds to the whole not recognizing him business, the being in the dark business, is that we get the detail in verse 23 that Joseph is speaking in Egyptian this whole time. This adds to him not being recognized by them because he's not speaking in their language. He's speaking in Egyptian. And so he's communicating with them and he's saying, you're spies, you're spies. He's saying all this in Egyptian and it's being translated by an interpreter. Okay, so it adds to the deception. It adds to the mystery of who it is, and adds to the brothers not recognizing it because Joseph is not speaking to them in their own language. Let's see.
Why would it come to the brothers' mind that this is happening to them because of what they did to him so many years ago? You know, they apparently did feel some guilt, although it doesn't look like it later on even. But, you know, they say that we're paying the penalty of what we did to our brother. We saw his anguish when he pleaded with us, but we would not listen. This is why this anguish has come upon us. So they think they're being punished for that act so many years ago.
Right.
I guess that's the most evil thing they ever did. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And it probably was. It probably was the most evil thing they'd ever done. And now they are perceived, you know, and they did it together too.
Yeah.
It wasn't just something that one of them did and then told the others about. They did it as a group. And so they made that connection between this severe misfortune that they are facing and this deed that they all did together. Now, obviously, they don't realize that the one they did it to is standing right in front of them. But they do make that connection between that deed and what's happening to them now. I love verse 22 about Reuben, you know, Reuben saying, did I not tell you not to wrong the Lord? I told you this would go badly. I told you. I tried to talk you guys out of it. You're talking about human nature. Oh my word. You know, it's like I told you guys. I told you this would go this way. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood. Now then, of course, this is where verse 23 comes in. We're given the detail about that Joseph is speaking in Egyptian this whole time. The brothers clearly are saying this out loud. Okay. They're saying this to each other in front of Joseph. And they apparently think that Joseph does not understand them, which explains what happens in verse 24. Because as we know, Joseph does understand them. And he hears them say that. He hears, in other words, he hears essentially their confession of guilt. He hears them expressing sorrow for what they did. Okay. Now, granted, they're expressing this sorrow under pressure. You know, they're expressing this sorrow because they are now, they're sorry now that they're being punished, in other words, you know. But they are expressing sorrow. And so then after Joseph hears this and perfectly well understands what they're saying, he turns away from them and weeps. And then he returns and speaks with them. Yeah. think of all those things you've seen like on TV shows or whatever, where there's that kind of a misunderstanding where somebody or a Facebook video or something where you don't think someone understands what you're saying, and then they come back, and after you've said something, offensive or terrible or whatever, that the person comes back and speaks in that language and says, no, I heard you completely. And so what we're left with here is they pick out, or Joseph picks out Simeon, and Simeon then is basically being held as a hostage, okay, as a security, so to speak. So the brothers then can take the grain that they've been given, return to Canaan, feed the family, and then return with Benjamin. And again, so this test is all going on. And again, the test is not what the brothers actually, the test is not actually what the brothers think it is. The brothers think that the test is whether they're telling the truth about having a brother. And Joseph encourages them in that. He sets it up as if that's what the test is. Of course, Joseph knows the answer, but the brothers don't know that Joseph knows the answer. And so what the actual test is how do these brothers treat Benjamin, given that Benjamin is now the beloved son of Jacob. Now the business here in verse 25 is just a stroke of genius. And this goes, Lois, this goes to your point about Joseph wants these brothers of his to squirm. He really wants them to squirm. Verse 25, Joseph then gave orders to fill their bags with grain and, unbeknownst to them, return every man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for their journey. This was done for them. The money that they're supposed to be giving the Egyptians in payment for the grain, Joseph secretly has that money put back in their sack such that it would look like they were stealing it.
On the other hand, though, he is also sending food so
Yeah.
that the family doesn't starve before they get this whole charade played out. So,
Yeah.
so he's a
At this
mixed,
point,
he's a
yeah,
mixed
at this
man.
point, yeah, at this point, you have to, I mean, we don't fully know what he's thinking about the brothers. His feelings are probably very mixed about, his
I'm
older
sure.
brothers. We do know that he loves Jacob and that he loves Benjamin. And so he certainly wants to make sure that Jacob and Benjamin are cared for. And so he is concerned to get that grain to them. But putting the money,
Mhm.
putting the money back in their sacks so that basically so he can frame them, make it look like they stole the grain rather than bought it. That's just a stroke of
Does he do that later on, Tom? Does he frame them later on? Because I don't see anything in what we've read thus far.
Well,
that would-
yeah, that's the only reason. Yeah, I was going to say that's the only reason that he would do it. And that's
magnanimity.
yeah.
He could have. That could have been an act of generosity on his part rather than framing them.
Well, yeah, possibly. We're going to read more. We'll read more and we'll develop that more. But certainly the brothers are terrified. The brothers are terrified at this point. We'll read more. I wonder what Joseph's motive is here. Is it because he really wants them to keep their money, or is it he wants them to think that the Egyptians think that they're being
This is amazing. Here's the preacher being cynical and the lawyer thinking it's an act of generosity. What a turnaround.
Hey, remember, I'm the preacher in a tradition of that believes in total depravity. So
Their question though is, what is this that God has done to us? They don't say, what
That's an
did that
interesting-
leader of Egypt do to us? Or, you know, they see this as part of their punishment, I think for sure.
yes, absolutely, that's it. They see this as divine justice being
Mhm.
meted out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's good. That's good. But yeah, they freak out. They freak out, and you know, we'll get it kind of later on. We can talk about what Joseph's real motives for that were, but there's no question but that the brothers interpret this as, oh gosh, I mean, this looks terrible. This makes us look terrible. This makes it look like we've stolen the grain. So here we go. Okay, so let's pick up now with verse 29. Verse 29. When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, the man, the Lord of the land, spoke harshly to us and charged us with spying on the land. But we said to him, we are honest men, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is now with our father in the land of Canaan. Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, by this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me. Take grain for the famine of your households and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me, and I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men. Then I will release your brother to you, and you may trade in the land. As they were emptying their sacks, there in each one's sack was his bag of money. When they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were dismayed. And their father Jacob said to them, okay. And their father Jacob said to them, I am the one you have bereaved of children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more. He's given up on Simeon, you know, and Simeon is no more. And now you would take Benjamin. All this has happened to me. Then Reuben said to his father, you may kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. But he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If harm should come to him on the journey that you are to make, you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol. Wow.
Joseph probably never did learn what actually happened. Jacob probably never did learn what actually happened to Joseph, did he? He's blaming the sons because Joseph disappeared when he was with them, but
Right.
I don't think he ever learned how dastardly their deed really was.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's to be honest with you, I don't recall in the rest of the story. I don't recall what exactly is said along those lines. And we'll, as we read ahead, we'll get to it.
I suppose Joseph could tell him at some point, but
yeah,
I
right.
don't remember that he did.
Now we do know that Jacob, of course, Jacob and the whole family is going to be moving to Egypt. So they're going to be spending a lot of time with Joseph.
Mhm.
And, perhaps that's going to, that would have come out somehow. But yeah, it's now there is the line, and their father Jacob said to them, I am the one that you have bereaved of children.
Mhm.
How does it read in yours? It's verse 36.
You have robbed me of my children. Joseph has disappeared, Simeon has disappeared, and now you're taking Benjamin.
Yeah, I mean, it's the latter two. It's clear how, from Jacob's point of view, Simeon and Benjamin would be their fault. Okay, I mean, it's clear how those two could be seen as their fault from Jacob's point of view. What's interesting is what lies behind him putting Joseph first in that series. Is to what extent is exactly your question. How much does he know about what happens or what happened to Joseph at the hand of those brothers? How informed is he? Does he, out of ignorance or out of knowledge, somehow blame them for Joseph being no more?
And further on, he refers to Joseph saying, for his brother is dead. I mean, he says, up above, he says, Joseph has disappeared, but then a few lines later, he says, his brother is dead and he alone is left, meaning Benjamin. So,
yeah,
I mean,
well,
he
says Simeon is no more. He's given up. I mean, as far as he's concerned, Simeon's lost too. I mean, he's despairing. He's really giving up. At this moment, and it's understandable, but at this moment, Jacob is a very sad, pathetic old man at this point. He is a really sad and pathetic figure at this point. He's essentially given up on life and says, look, Benjamin's the only thing that's keeping me going at all. And if I lose, and you can't take Benjamin from me, if Benjamin goes, I have zero to live for. I have absolutely nothing to live for anymore.
I don't understand why he thinks he has bargaining power if everybody's starving and they need food. He doesn't have many options here.
Who?
The father, if he doesn't
Oh.
want to send another son, is he just expecting to let everybody die of hunger?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I think that's it. He's given up. He's
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Jacob's basically given up.
Oh, okay.
There's in chapter 50, or I'm sorry, chapter 43, eventually they do get Benjamin down to Egypt. And so there is some movement on Jacob's part. But as far as we know in chapter 42, Jacob has he's despairing. He's seeing nothing but darkness ahead. And he believed, as far as he's concerned, he's lost Simeon. I mean, the brothers have every reason to believe that Simeon is fine. He's not free, but he's fine. As far as, but Jacob has almost written him off. So it's,
Well, I was also, excuse me.
Yep, go ahead.
It also sounds like he's kind of written off these sons, saying, I don't trust you guys. You've never done anything good. They're not going to pull this one off either.
Right.
What I was going to say is, to me, I can only imagine the thing that's upmost in Jacob's mind is that bloody coat they brought back to him to prove that, or to make him think that his son was dead. His favorite son at the time was dead. And so I'm sure that's very upmost in his mind.
Yeah. And certainly that's motivating his holding on to Benjamin. He's absolutely motivating his holding on to Benjamin the way he is. So this is, he's practically given up. He's written off Simeon. I mean, Simeon might as well be dead from his point of view. He's gone. Joseph's gone. Benjamin, you want to take Benjamin from me? I don't have anything to live for. And we're all going to starve anyway. You know, the famine's so terrible. We have no hope anyway. The world's going to hell. So, you know, that kind of thing. All right, well, let's go ahead. Let's we've got a little time here. Let's go on into chapter 43. These chapters are long, but they read smoothly. A good continuous story. So chapter 43. Now the famine was severe in the land, and when they had eaten up the grain that they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go again, buy us a little more food." But Judah said to him, and totally given up. he wants to eat. But Judah said to him, "The man solemnly warned us, saying, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother, Benjamin, is with you. If you will send your brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.' Israel said," and this is interesting because this is still Jacob, but remember Jacob was renamed Israel. Israel said, "Why did you treat me so badly as to tell the man that you had another brother?" They replied, "The man questioned us carefully about ourselves and our kindred, saying, 'Is your father still alive? Have you another brother?'" And of course, we know that Joseph knew the answers to those questions. Oh, he didn't know the father's still alive, but he did know that you had another brother. What we told him was in answer to these questions. Could we in any way know that he would say, 'Bring your brother down'?" Then Judah said to his father Israel, "Send the boy with me, and let us be on our way so that we may live and not die, you and we, and also our little ones. I myself will be surety for him. You can hold me accountable for him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. If we had not delayed, we would now have returned twice." Then their father Israel said to them, "If it must be so, then do this. Take some of the choice fruits of the land in your bags and carry them down as a present to the man, a little balm and a little honey, gum, resin, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Take double the money with you. Carry back with you the money that was returned in the top of your sacks. Perhaps it was an oversight. Take your brother also and be on your way again to the man. May God Almighty grant you mercy before the man so that he may send back your other brother and Benjamin. As for me, if I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved." So the men took the present, and they took double the money with them, as well as Benjamin. Then they went on their way down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. All right, let's pause there. All right, so what do you think?
It's interesting that this time it's Judah who says, you know, I'll be responsible. And earlier it was somebody else.
Yeah,
I have to go back and see.
right. Yeah, it was Reuben. Yeah. There is a reason for this.
Okay.
It's not a profound theological reason. It's a difference in sources. It's a difference between E source and J source. The E source is going with Reuben as the potential hero. The E source, remember, was written in the northern kingdom of Israel, or comes from the northern kingdom of Israel. Where the tribe of Reuben, where Reuben was from, and Judah, Judah, that's where the kingdom of Judah, the tribe of Judah, that's where the J source comes from. And so it's not terribly surprising that the sources would be a little different in who's going to be the hero in Jacob's eyes.
Oh, that's
Uh,
interesting.
not terribly surprising. But yeah, that accounts for the difference. But yeah, Judah, in the J account, Judah is saying, let me, he doesn't offer his sons, any sons of his are any sons of his are Jacob's grandsons, so it's like, it doesn't get any better if I offer you their lives. Oh, good, I get to kill my grandsons rather than, great. But he offers him, he says, let me bear the blame. Let me bear the blame forever if this doesn't go right.
And I guess it says every person has their price. When it comes right down to it, if everybody's going to starve to death, all right, Benjamin, you can go. I mean, that's kind of Jacob's price.
Now, Jacob, of course, doesn't want to take any chances. We know from earlier that when Jacob was about to face Esau, we know that he presented presents. He sent presents on ahead to placate Esau, because he believed, with no small amount of justification, believed that Esau had it out for him. Well, kind of in the same way, though Jacob is not going with them, he has the idea that they bring gifts to this governor of Egypt who had been so harsh with them, and who, as far as they were concerned, thought that the governor thought that they had run off without paying last time. And so bringing double the money plus all the gifts, so as to make everything right and to appropriately impress this governor who had been so hard on them and who had detained their brother Simeon. In this way, it's consistent for Jacob. I mean, this is something that Jacob has done before, and he's perfectly willing to do it again. It's not dishonest, of course. It wasn't dishonest then. It's not dishonest now. It's like Jacob thinks he understands something of human nature, and you talk about, people having their price. Jacob is counting on this governor of Egypt having his price. And that he can be appropriately placated if given enough. Anything else there? I think we'll read one more section before we knock off for today. Fairly straightforward. I mean, there's really, there's not a whole lot in terms of, great theological profundity here. It's a pretty straight narrative. Okay, so let's do verse 16. Actually, let's go ahead and finish the chapter because it's just 16 through 34. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, "Bring the men into the house and slaughter an animal and make ready, for the men are to dine with me at noon." The man did as Joseph said and brought the men to Joseph's house. Now the men were afraid because they were brought to Joseph's house. And they said, "It is because of the money replaced in our sacks the first time that we have been brought in, so that he may have an opportunity to fall upon us, to make slaves of us and take our donkeys." So they went up to the steward of Joseph's house and spoke with him at the entrance to the house. They said, "Oh, my Lord, we came down the first time to buy food. And when we came to the lodging place, we opened our sacks, and there was each one's money in the top of his sack, our money in full weight. So we have brought it back with us. Moreover, we have brought down with us additional money to buy food. We do not know who put our money in our sacks." He replied, "Rest assured, do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father must have put treasure in your sacks for you. I received your money." Then he brought Simeon out to them. When the steward had brought the men into Joseph's house and given them water, and they had washed their feet, and when he had given their donkeys fodder, they made the present ready for Joseph's coming at noon, for they had heard that they would dine there. When Joseph came home, they brought him the present that they had carried into the house and bowed to the ground before him. He inquired about their welfare and said, "Is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive?" They said, "Your servant, our father, is well. He is still alive." And they bowed their heads and did obeisance. Then he looked up and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me? God be gracious to you, my son." With that, Joseph hurried out because he was overcome with affection for his brother, and he was about to weep. So he went into a private room and wept there. Then he washed his face and came out, and controlling himself, he said, "Serve the meal." They served him by himself and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians could not eat with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination to the Egyptians. When they were seated before him, the firstborn according to his birthright and the youngest according to his youth, the men looked at one another in amazement. Portions were taken to them from Joseph's table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs. So they drank and were merry with him.
Pretty clearly, they had your theory. They thought that the money was put there to frame him for sure, so he could
Yeah.
take the donkeys and so forth. So that's what they thought.
Yeah.
And I wonder why, again, unless it's an act of generosity, that he said, "God put that money back. I got your money," which is a blatant lie.
Right.
But it must have been another act of generosity, I suppose.
It was an act of generosity, and yet I think it was. I can't help but believe that Joseph knew that by doing that, he would put the fear of God into them. That he thought that they would think that he thought they were stealing the money.
Come on, John Knox.
I mean, this is psychologically complicated, right? There's some serious introspection going on here. This is a level of access to the interior life of people that we rarely see in the Bible. We really don't see this level of access to what's going on in here to quite the extent that we see in this story. Precisely because this kind of internal, intellectual, and emotional chess match is going on, and it's like we can see it in front of us. That this kind of emotional chess match is going on, and of course Joseph is the grand master. He knows almost everything that's going on, and of course the brothers are in the dark. But then when we have these incredible moments, again, that are not often expressed in Scripture, Old or New Testament, these moments where, like in verses 29 through like 31, when he looked up and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your youngest brother? God be gracious to you, my son." And with that, Joseph hurried out because he was overcome with affection for his brother, and he was about to weep. And so he went into a private room and wept there. And then he washed his face and came out, and controlling himself. I mean, wow. I mean, what an insight into Joseph's, emotional life, his heart, that he just was really trying to hold it together. He had to keep the deception going for just a little while longer. Had to keep it going for a little while longer. But man, I mean, seeing that Benjamin was okay, that apparently Benjamin was being well treated. Now there's a little more there in chapter 44, as we'll see, and Joseph still has a little bit of a test for them vis-a-vis Benjamin, but nevertheless he's probably tremendously relieved to see that Benjamin is okay, and that apparently the brothers have been treating him well.
Let's speak for the brothers just a moment. First, they watched their father favor Joseph until they'd had a bellyful of it. Now they see Joseph favor Benjamin, all because they were children of Rachel. So I can imagine that they would feel highly discriminated against and put upon. Now, that doesn't justify what they did to Joseph,
Right.
But the root of the problem is Jacob. And his treatment, his discriminatory treatment of those two sons.
Yeah. You wonder if his Joseph's now favoring Benjamin in this feast is a way of setting up a test of the brothers. And I think you guys already know the answer to this, that setting up a test for the brothers in which Joseph is almost recreating the circumstances of the original fault, the original sin, so to speak. He's recreating the circumstances where Benjamin is getting favored. And how are the brothers going to respond to that? How are the older brothers going to respond to Benjamin being so clearly favored? What are they going to do? Are they going to try to off Benjamin now? And that's what Joseph wants to see now.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can't help but feel a little sorry for Simeon. Nobody seems to care a flip for him. I mean, there he has been in the prison and being held, and they don't care whether they go back and get him or not.
Right. Yeah, poor Simeon.
Like,
what did I do? I didn't do anything.
Well, in their defense, they did, when they first got back, tell their father what he needed to do to get him back. I mean, that was the first thing they, in the script anyway, when they spoke to him, they said, "This is what we got to do," and he wouldn't do it until he started starving again.
Yeah.
They did tell him. They said, well, I know you're not spies, honest men. I will release your brother to you, and you can trade in the land when you bring your youngest brother. And Jacob wouldn't hear of it. He wouldn't. So they couldn't convince him. So they were not quite as stupid as I guess it sounds.
Bill, you and you alone would appreciate this, but I would love to hear Dennis Blackman talk about this story.
Who's Dennis Blackman?
Oh, he's a member of Carrollton Church, Carrollton Presbyterian Church, and he always taught the Sunday school class there, and was one of the most fun and insightful and entertaining Bible teachers I've ever seen. He's quite something. There's not Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis, Dennis. Yeah, I would love to hear his thoughts on this story.
Here, the mini Lego slides.
Oh, right. His Lego
A
slide.
few too many, but
I would love to hear his take on this story and on the psychology of what's going on, and with Joseph and with what the brothers are thinking. Dennis would do a wonderful job at kind of putting it all out there. Yeah, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's something only Bill would appreciate. Okay, well we
Yes,
are.
I want to ask a question just
Oh
real
yeah,
quick.
Lois. Yeah.
On 23,
Uh-huh.
Joseph says, set your minds at rest. Do not be afraid. It was your God, the God of your father that did this. Now he's saying your, not our. It was your God. And then you get down to where he's talking to Benjamin and he says, may God be gracious to you, my son, which seems like may our God be gracious to you. So it's sort of like he's in the first one pretending that it's only the Hebrew God. And yet
Right.
few verses later, it's our God. I found that
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah. He could have, and when he said, God be gracious to you, my son, at least as far as the brothers are concerned, and maybe even as far as Benjamin was concerned, because Benjamin didn't recognize Joseph either. As far as we know, he didn't know him either. So, as far as Benjamin knew, Joseph could have been talking about one of the Egyptian gods, for all we know, or for all Benjamin knows.
I suppose that's true, but it's the singular God. It doesn't say may the gods be gracious.
Well, that's true. That's true.
I mean, and we know he's talking about the Hebrew God, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think the writers would put the Egyptian God in Joseph's mouth.
Well, yeah, no, I think, yeah, I agree. That it's, I think there's some anachronism going on here. I mean, I think that you're dealing with, this is written by Israel. This is written by Israelites. And so they're talking as Israelites would talk, but relating what someone who is supposedly an Egyptian, relating what an Egyptian would say, but as reported by Israelites, if that makes sense.
It's complicated.
It is, yeah, it is kind of complicated. But yeah, this is good. This is really good stuff. All right. Well, we have done 2 chapters today, which is really quite remarkable. But next week we're going to see this drama, go even further and see the detainment of Benjamin, because ultimately we are, ultimately we're going to see Jacob show up, but Joseph is not quite yet done with these brothers. He's not quite ready to pull the mask off, so to speak. He wants to have a little more fun with them first. All right. Well, with that, we will conclude our study for today. Just as we begin to wind down and we close with prayers, I'll mention that my prayers for my brother-in-law, Shane Clues, my sister's husband. He's in the hospital in Opelika, Alabama, right now. He was admitted to the ER last night, and some stuff that's serious but treatable, and his ultimate prognosis is likely to be fine, but he's going through a really rough time right now. And so my sister is Laura there with him right now?
She can't right now. She
Okay.
can only see him at certain times right now.
Okay. So he's going through a rough patch. The other, another person too, it's an old childhood friend of mine, grew up in my neighborhood, just a few blocks down from my house in the Spring Valley neighborhood in Montgomery. Old friend, somebody I've kind of drifted apart from, in adulthood, but But he's on a ventilator in Montgomery with COVID, and he's fighting for his life. And he's been there for about a week now, and he's fighting for his life. And it's been a lot of the sort of the old gang have been calling and texting each other. I've been in touch with a few of the old gang, and just lifting him. Tim Miller is his name, lifting him up in prayer in all this. And so, but I know that story is not unique. That's many of us have experienced these kinds of situations and losses and everything. And we'll just remember them today. Anyone else that you'd like to specifically recall today?
Sharon, who has another serious infection, and it may be in the bone in her foot. So,
Oh dear.
Sharon's in need.
Okay. All right. Well, let's close with prayer, and then we'll be on our way. Oh God, we give you thanks for this day and for this opportunity to gather as we do each week. It's easy to take what we do for granted, but it's something that we might never have done, but for the circumstances that we've been put in. We thank you that we can gather in this way, and we can share with one another, share stories, laugh, and gather around the scriptures and read these timeless stories and unpack them and seek to discern in them a direction for our own lives, an insight into how we should live. Lord, we do pray for those that we've lifted up today. We do remember Shane, and remember Tim, and remember Sharon. We lift up to you all those who are in need of your healing touch. We hold them all in your light. Surround them with your healing mercy and grace and peace. We pray all of these things now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, everybody. Well, it's been
Thank you.
fun today, and I look forward to seeing y'all next week. And golly, well, try to with all that's going on in this season and all the busyness, try to stay above water.
Thanks so
All right.
much.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Y'all have a great rest of the day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.